So it is the second day of the ANC National Elective Conference, and party delegates from across the conference will be electing new leaders later on this evening. So the question is, though, who will those leaders be? Well, we've got eNCA's Faith Daniels, who's on the ground in Nasrec and joins us for the very latest. Faith Daniels, we spoke to Richard Cullen earlier on, who indicated that it's been 31 hours late that we have seen these proceedings drag on in terms of the nominations and the voting process that's set to take place. And everyone is wondering, who will these leaders be? I'm talking about the top 6 here. What do you have on the ground in terms of the latest in those proceedings, and when we can start to see some kind of movement on those nominations and the voting process, if at all, this evening?
Well, it's going to be a very long night for all of the delegates and all the journalists on the ground here in Nasrec as the rains come down here. And to take us through the process and what we can expect, I'm not going to answer you, Rupiwa. The ANC spokesperson, Mabe, is going to give you an answer to that. Pule, thank you for joining us. Just in terms of tonight, right? What are we looking at in terms of what still needs to happen?
Well, Faith, as I left the plenary hall, the presentation of credentials was being done. Delegates are now deliberating on those credentials. Once credentials are adopted, we then move to the outstanding business of conference. That includes all other things that we need to do. We'll be guided by time and the weather on whether we are in a position to be able to move with all of the outstanding issues.
Will there be things that have been on the program that is going to fall by the wayside?
Not necessarily. We are doing everything else we can to make sure that we cover sufficient ground. We attend to all of the issues that were on the program.
The Integrity Commission report, will that be deliberated?
It is expected. It is expected. One would not have been in the plenary hall during the presentation of the organizational report. So I've not been able to interact fully with the steering committee to establish what has been and has not been presented on those reports. And I'm sure because you are well within our own reach, we'll be able to give such an update.
So what kind of time frames are we looking at in terms of tonight?
Well, I don't know. I just left the hall as they were presenting credentials. So I can't preempt. And so you can see it's raining outside.
Yeah. So it can take 2 hours, 3 hours, the entire night?
Well, that's the guess that eNCA is giving.
Okay, just in terms of you being inside the plenary hall and the discussions, just give us a summary of how the day has progressed and how it's been being part of the discussions as well.
It has been quite productive. It has been quite productive. Presentations have been made. Delegates have been quite attentive. You can see they know what they came here to do, which is to contribute towards making their organization much more stronger, efficient in the delivery of basic services, working in terms of attending to the plight of our own people. This is encouraging. It shows that there is a commitment from amongst those that are attending this conference to make sure that the ANC can be able to withstand all other challenges that it faces. We can only be strong, Faith, if we pay attention on the issues that society raises as the things that they will want to see us doing. The commitments that we're making to our people, we've got to make sure that we work to realize those, especially the promise of a better life for all. Our people are living in abject poverty. Young graduates do not have jobs. We have got to create a healthy populace. All of these things are found in the progressive policies of the ANC. This conference is that platform. It has got to make sure that the incoming leadership pay attention on all of these things.
I have to ask you this because you're mentioning this. I mean, you're talking about the challenges right there, right? And it's in the discussion documents of the ANC, and it's going to be discussed here as well. But in the current climate, Pule, we have been talking about stage 6 load shedding, the economy. It's an uphill battle.
Of course, Faith, of course. That's why we have developed and adopted an economic recovery plan, which went on to be processed by our government, which begins to look at some of the green shoots that are there, the things that we can do to create a long-lasting and sustainable economic trajectory, areas that can contribute to industrial development and growth, where we can be able to leverage on the creation of jobs, bringing on board innovation, what we need to do to attend to the energy generation crisis that our country faces, doing everything else to make sure that the introduction of alternative energy or moving towards the energy mix trajectory does not undermine or compromise the resources that the country has got, including coal. We've got to make sure that even as we transition to a climate resilient economy, we do so by ensuring that the repurposing of our own power station takes into account that this country is endowed with mineral resources, including coal. We have got to make sure that we give hope to the people of a province like Mpumalanga. They've got to know that the leadership that is being elected here, the government that they are entrusting with their own welfare and life, is one that is paying attention to the challenges of the day and looking at where the world is going. Make sure that whatever we introduce in this country works to enhance what has worked in the past.
Okay, Pule Mabe, ANC spokesperson, thank you for your time. I'm going to let you go. Pule is going to go back to the plenary session where at the moment the party is busy with the adoption of credentials.
You go on continuing to burn the midnight oil. Very briefly, before we get to Pule and Siphamandla Goge, you've been on the ground. The Integrity Commission, Pule Mabe, they're being very evasive, or not evasive rather, but elusive about it and whether it will be discussed. Are there any concerns that it may remove the president from his presidential chair after this conference, if it is discussed, and some of the outcomes of that report?
I think there's concerns over both the presidential candidates that that is being pointed at this conference. You have Cyril Ramaphosa, you have eNCA, and we do know that with the Integrity Commission report and with it being tabled, we do know that Pala, the investigation into what has happened at the president's farm, the theft there, that will have to be discussed. And then with eNCA, you have the digital vibe scandal. So it's not just about the one candidate, it's about both of them. And it's a tricky situation in terms of where the discussions are going to go and how it's going to be led. Because you saw earlier this afternoon with Siphamandla Goge, a group of the Eastern Cape delegates of KZN as well, calling for change and saying that they don't want Cyril Ramaphosa to be elected as president. And then I speak to the Western Cape, and their delegation's very firm that they want him to remain president. So there are varied views, but those views on the ground and in and around Nasrec will have to find its way to the plenary sessions amongst the delegates, and that is where it needs to be sorted out, and that is where the decisions will have to be taken.
That is Faith Daniels giving us that update.